The boy just couldn't help but turn on the toy plane, which scared his father half to death. He quickly put down the small child in his arms and rushed toward the boy. Seeing this scene, the mother and daughter also became nervous, but they covered their mouths and noses, not daring to make any sound. At this moment, the father suddenly discovered a dark shadow in the forest, rapidly approaching the boy. Even though Lee ran with all his might, he was still one step too late. It turns out that 2.5 months ago, a terrifying alien monster invaded Earth. Although they have no eyes, their hearing and sense of smell are exceptionally developed. Their strong limbs can quickly reach prey, and their hard shells are comparable to bulletproof vests. The entire world has become their hunting ground. Facing the sudden attack of these monsters, the society built by humans collapsed in an instant. Keeping absolute silence is the only rule for survival in this apocalypse. Lee's family survived in this monster-ridden wasteland by relying on this rule. A farm in the suburbs is the home they rely on for survival. Every time they go out to find supplies, the family lays down sand on the road in advance to reduce the sound of footsteps as much as possible. Their communication with each other can only be done through sign language, for fear of making even a tiny bit of noise that would disturb the nearby monsters. But an accident occurred during one trip to find supplies. The family was preparing to return fully loaded, unaware that the younger son had quietly taken a toy plane. On the way home, the scene at the beginning of the video happened. The death of the younger son plunged everyone into sadness, and the father was especially consumed by guilt, believing he had failed to take care of him. To prevent similar tragedies from happening again, they became even more cautious than before. Cameras were installed around the farm so they could observe the monster's movements at any time. Because they cannot make sound, red warning lights were placed around the house to indicate when a monster is present. The father would also send out distress signals to the outside world every day, hoping to find other human survivors. But each time, there was no response. Time passed like this for a year, and the family was about to welcome a new member. To prepare for the fourth child, they made ample preparations and converted the basement into a soundproof room. The walls were covered with thick layers of newspaper for sound insulation. The baby crib was also made into a completely enclosed wooden box using blankets, leaving an oxygen tube for breathing. After all preparations were completed, the family sat together for a meal and prayed that the disaster would pass as soon as possible. However, after dinner, while the two children were playing a game, they accidentally knocked over an oil lamp nearby. Such a noise was enough to attract monsters. Although Lee quickly put out the fire with a blanket, abnormal sounds still came from outside. The family immediately held their breath, not daring to make any noise. Lee cautiously approached the window to check. Fortunately, it was just 2 groundhogs, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They did not know that a monster had already arrived nearby. Early the next morning, Lee began laying sand on the road, preparing to take Marcus out for fishing. But Marcus didn't want to go, as he was afraid of being taken away by monsters like his brother. His mother told him he must go because, in the apocalypse, one must learn basic survival skills. This way, he would have the ability to take care of himself while also needing to look after his sister and mother. With Evelyn's encouragement, Marcus finally plucked up the courage to prepare for the trip. But before they set off, Regan said she wanted to go along as well. However, her father refused her, asking her to stay home and look after her mother. It turns out Regan suffered from a congenital hearing impairment, and her lack of sensitivity to sound made her situation obviously more dangerous. For this reason, Lee had specially made a hearing aid for her, but Regan did not understand her father's good intentions. Being rejected again, she left in a huff. After her father and brother left, she quietly went to the basement to pack her things. She took the hearing aid her father made and secretly left home alone. Soon, Lee took his son to the river and caught a fish from the trap set in advance. He intended to hand the fish to his son, but his hand accidentally slipped and the fish almost got away. The noise also startled Marcus. He was worried that monsters would be drawn here. His father quickly pulled him close and told him that the sound of the river had covered their noise, so the monsters would not hear. After saying that, Lee even took Marcus to a louder waterfall and shouted out loud to release long suppressed emotions. After finishing, the two were preparing to go home when they met an old man on the way. His wife was lying on the ground, seemingly just attacked by a monster. The old man stood there in despair, having lost all hope for living. Ignoring Lee's attempt to stop him, he shouted without hesitation. Lee quickly held Marcus and hid behind a large tree, watching helplessly as the old man was killed by the attracted monster. While home alone, Evelyn discovered her daughter was missing and could only take the freshly washed clothes out to dry herself. When she walked up the stairs, the sack accidentally caught on a nail. Without knowing better, Evelyn pulled hard, instantly straightening the originally bent nail. This also planted a hidden danger for what was to come. After hanging the clothes, Evelyn sat in her younger son's bedroom, looking at everything and unable to stop her tears. Perhaps because she missed her son too much, she suddenly realized her due date had come early. Evelyn immediately felt that things were going wrong, as giving birth alone in such circumstances was undoubtedly suicidal. She originally wanted to go to the basement to turn on the warning light to alert Lee that she was in trouble. However, she accidentally stepped on that nail. A surge of pain hit her instantly, but Evelyn didn't dare to make a single sound. She endured the intense pain and forced her foot off the nail. Not daring to delay for a moment, she quickly got up to turn on the warning light, because the sound from just now had likely already attracted a monster. Sure enough, as she was preparing to go to the soundproof room, a monster had already entered the house. She quickly hid to the side and then found an alarm clock, intending to use the noise to leave. The pain from her foot and the impending childbirth left her drenched in sweat. Every minute and second was an ordeal. She worked hard to adjust her breathing, finally set the alarm clock, and hid in a corner to wait quietly. Meanwhile, that monster took the initiative to go into the basement. Watching the monster begin to search around, Evelyn was very nervous and could only cover her mouth with her hand. At this moment, the monster revealed its sensitive ears and began to listen carefully for any slight noise. Seeing that she was about to be discovered, the alarm clock finally rang at the critical moment. The sound immediately made the monster restless, and it instantly lunged toward the source of the noise. Taking this opportunity, Evelyn quickly left the basement. But just as she got outside and was heading for the soundproof room, she discovered another monster had arrived. So she could only hide in the bathtub of the second-floor bedroom. At the same time, Lee finally rushed back with his son. Looking at the lit warning light, he felt something was wrong and ran toward the house. After confirming the house had been attacked by a monster, Lee told his son to go into the distance and set off fireworks. This was to create a louder noise to lead the monster away. For his mother's safety, Marcus also became brave. He quickly began to take action, while Lee picked up a gun and prepared to sneak into the house for a rescue. But the situation was already extremely critical. As blood continued to flow, Evelyn, lying in the bathtub, could no longer hold back the impending delivery. Even worse, that monster was also walking toward the second floor. She quickly grabbed a blanket to cover herself, preparing to give birth right there in the bathtub. The slowly approaching monster and the pain in her body almost made her collapse. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Marcus lit the fireworks. The moment the monster was drawn away, she finally couldn't help but let out a loud scream. Seeing this, Lee quickly ran toward the house with his gun. Hearing the sound, Reagan also immediately returned home. But when Lee cautiously reached the second floor, he only saw a large amount of blood in the bathtub. Just as he thought his wife had been killed by the monster, a bloody handprint suddenly appeared on the glass door nearby. Unexpectedly, Evelyn had actually given birth to the child alone. It is hard to imagine the pain his wife went through. Lee could only hold her and constantly comfort her. Seeing the baby begin to cry, he quickly carried the mother and child to the soundproof room. Then he put the oxygen mask on the child and placed him in the soundproof box. Thinking the other two children might be in danger, Lee quickly went out to find them after settling his wife. However, he did not notice that the monster from earlier had broken a water pipe, and a large amount of water began to slowly seep into the soundproof room. On the other side, Marcus was preparing to return when he suddenly heard an unusual noise. He instantly realized that a monster had arrived nearby. Panic-stricken, he didn't care about exposing his location and ran away, but accidentally crashed into a tire and knocked himself out. At this moment, the returning Regan also happened to pass by. Seeing a light in the corn granary, she leaned over curiously to check. She didn't know that a monster had already come up behind her. Regan didn't notice the danger at all, but something strange happened in the next second. Unexpectedly, the audio amplified by the hearing aid could actually cause the monster discomfort. Regan accidentally saved her own life, and then discovered her brother waking up by following the light. Afterward, they went to the top of the corn granary and lit a bonfire to wait for their father's rescue. At this time, Lee stood in front of the monitors but did not find any trace of the children. In the soundproof room, Evelyn just opened her eyes when she heard the sound of flowing water. She stood up to look and was surprised to find the entire soundproof room had been flooded. The child in the soundproof box had also been washed not far away. Even worse, a monster had entered here at some point. As she got out of bed to go pick up the child, she saw the monster actually dive into the water. She summoned her courage and slowly approached, finally picking up the child. But at the same time, the monster also slowly emerged from the water. Evelyn was so scared she immediately held her breath and cautiously backed away. She used the water curtain behind her to mask her sound, but the monster seemed to sense something and began to slowly approach this direction as well. Meanwhile, Regan on top of the granary didn't want to just sit and wait, so she prepared to take her brother back home. But her brother wanted to continue waiting for their father's rescue. While they were arguing, the brother accidentally fell into the granary. The noise he made drew the monster away, accidentally saving his mother's life. At the same time, Lee in the cornfield also discovered their location. Fortunately, it was full of corn inside, and Marcus was not seriously hurt, but he met a new crisis. The piled corn was like a swamp that could swallow him at any time. Regan signaled her brother not to move, but her brother couldn't see it at all. He worked hard to reach the flashlight not far away. Just then, a shaky iron door suddenly fell, almost taking Marcus's life. Terrified, he twisted his body frantically, but only sank deeper. Even worse, Lee outside saw with his own eyes that the attracted monster was rushing toward them. To save her brother, Regan had no choice but to jump down as well. She pushed the door panel over and successfully saved her brother, but she herself fell into a crisis. Watching his sister slowly being swallowed by the corn, Marcus quickly crawled over and reached out to grab her. After some searching, he finally felt his sister's hand and used all his strength to pull her up. But just as the two breathed a sigh of relief, that monster jumped down. In a panic, the two quickly used the door panel for protection, but the monster just gave it a light swipe and instantly tore through the door panel. In the moment of crisis, the hearing aid played its role again. The interfered monster suddenly became extremely distressed, then turned and broke out of the granary to leave. Using the large hole smashed by the monster, the siblings finally escaped. Finally, they reunited with their father who had rushed over, but Lee soon discovered that the monster didn't seem to have left. So he told the siblings to quickly hide in the car nearby, while he picked up an axe for defense. Unexpectedly, the monster was on the roof. Lee just reacted when he was knocked flying by a punch. In his desperation, Marcus shouted for his father, which put himself and his sister in danger. When the monster rushed over, Regan's hearing aid again made a piercing sound. But at this time, she didn't know this thing could save lives, so she immediately turned it off. Without the interference, the monster instantly lunged forward and began attacking the siblings in the car. The seriously injured Lee slowly stood up. Seeing his two children in crisis, he decisively dropped the axe in his hand. As a father, for the safety of his children, he knew what he had to do. After expressing his love to his children using sign language, Lee resolutely let out a roar. The monster that rushed over instantly killed Lee. With no time for grief, Marcus quickly pulled the truck's handbrake. Just like that, it slid all the way to the front door of the house. This scene was clearly seen by Evelyn in front of the monitors. The three of them hugged and cried together, but the crisis was not over yet. The roar of a monster came again. Evelyn quickly took the two to the basement. As the lights continued to flicker, a monster followed with heavy steps. The three were instantly tensed up. Evelyn held the shotgun but didn't dare to fire because she wasn't sure if she could kill it in one hit. Just then, the monster began to search for traces of its prey. The sound it made actually interfered with the monitors, and at this time, the noisy sound from the monitors seemed to make it very uncomfortable. Seeing this, Regan suddenly realized that sensitive hearing was the monster's advantage, but also its weakness. Noisy sounds would make the monster feel uneasy, and the hearing aid in her hand could amplify the audio. Thinking of this, Regan immediately turned on the hearing aid. Sure enough, hearing the noise, the monster immediately became restless, its body shaking uncontrollably. It looked very pained, but this bit of damage was not enough to kill the monster. Hearing the baby's cry, it still wanted to lunge over. Seeing this, Regan simply took off the hearing aid and pressed it directly against the microphone, increasing the audio several times again. This time, the monster finally couldn't take it, struggled for a moment, and then fell down. Evelyn looked at her daughter in disbelief, seemingly praising her for doing a great job. However, in the next second, the monster that wasn't completely dead slowly stood up and lunged again. but its head was already injured and had lost its defensive function. Evelyn raised her hand and fired a shot, finally killing the monster completely. But the gunshot also drew in more monsters. Through the monitors, the two clearly saw several monsters rapidly approaching. However, knowing the monster's weakness, they were no longer afraid. They directly turned the power to the maximum. Dealing with these few monsters would be no problem at all.